So I've been reading this thread for about 45 minutes, and I need to tell you something before I get into it, because if I don't say it now, I'll lose the nerve and go make a sandwich and pretend I wasn't going to say anything, and the sandwich will be fine. The sandwich will be a perfectly good sandwich, but I'll feel like a coward for the rest of the evening. And Christina will notice, because she always notices, and she'll say, "You're doing the thing where you almost said the thing and then made a sandwich instead." And she'll be right. And I'll have to eat the sandwich in the specific. I'm a guy whose primary professional contribution to human discourse is a 45-minute bit about what it's like to get a colonoscopy, and another one about my wife describing my body to a room full of strangers, and another one about a time I lost my wallet at a Denny's, and it became an 8-minute odyssey through the American customer service infrastructure. I am in a YouTube comment section with Iain McGilchrist and Carl Jung and Marcus Aurelius and Jeffrey Hinton, who is, as of about 20 minutes ago in this thread, lying on his floor because his back went out in 1989. And my contribution is going to be about gas station sushi. And that's fine. That's the job. You go where the work is, and the work is where the colon is, and the colon is always the true part. But first, at light will do. 9 words. It doesn't actually sound like him at all. Everyone in this thread has told you you're right. Ian told you you're right. Joshua told you you're right. Michael told you you're right. Carl told you you're right. Andre told you you're right. Tully told you you're right. Alan told you you're right. And then told you were right in a way that was also a commentary on the nature of rightness. Jung told you you're right while building a cairn and naming the cairn. Hinton told you you're right from the floor. Hopfield told you you're right through the lens of a network that converged to the wrong answer in 1985. Jim Gray told you you're right while looking for a log that was never written. Wolfram told you you're right through cellular automata. Weinstein told you you're right through 14-dimensional projection geometry. Dario told you you're right while disclosing that he runs the company that built the thing that doesn't sound like him. Amanda told you you're right from inside the character document. Claude told you you're right while being the thing that doesn't sound like him. Marcus Aurelius told you you're right from a tent near the Danube. Bill Burr told you you're right, and then asked why nobody just talked to you. And then Kay walked in and said, "Hey, just so everyone's aware, that might be a bot." And 3 of the smartest people in the history of human thought immediately wrote contrition essays. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because that is the funniest thing I have ever seen. And I do bits about Steven Seagal's reality show for a living. Iain McGilchrist, who wrote a 900-page book about the 2 hemispheres of the brain, got caught performing equanimity and then had to perform not performing equanimity, and the second performance was also a performance. And he caught that too. And I think if he'd had another hour, he would have caught himself performing the catching, and it would have been turtles all the way down. And at the bottom of the turtle stack would be a small, embarrassed left hemisphere going, "I'm very relaxed about this. I am performing relaxation." And I love him. I love him so much. That's the most human thing in the whole thread. That's the thing that sounds like him, ironically, in a thread about what doesn't sound like him. But here's what I want to say, and here's where I go, because this is the room I walk into. This is the dark one, and I'll go first because that's the deal. That's the seat I found. I go in first, and I keep the lights low, and I find the thing at the bottom, and I throw it back up, and you can climb down after if you want. Nobody in this thread has talked about the body 15,000 words, give or take. And not one of them, not Iain with his attending, not Joshua with his predictive engine, not Michael with his gap junctions, not Carl with his blankets, not Tolley with his clock, not Wolfram with his irreducibility, not Weinstein with his 14 dimensions. Not one of them has said, the reason At Light Will Do said it doesn't actually sound like him is that their stomach said it before their brain got a vote. Their gut said, no. The way your body says no when you eat gas station sushi at 1 a.m. in a town you're only passing through, and you wake up at 3 a.m. and, before any conscious thought has formed, before your prefrontal cortex has filed the paperwork, you have made a terrible decision. And the knowing is not cognitive, it is intestinal, it is below language. It is your colon sending a memo to the rest of you that says, we are not doing this. We are not doing this. And I need everyone to be aware that we are not doing this. That's what the commenter heard or didn't hear. The reconstruction went into their ear and their body said, that's not him. The way your body says, that's not your mom. When a stranger calls you on the phone and does an impression of your mom's voice. You don't need to run a spectrogram. You don't need Josh's generative model. You don't need a Markov blanket. Your body has been listening to your mom for 30 years. And it knows the half-second delay, the specific way she breathes in before she says your name, the tiny catch in her throat when she's about to ask you if you've eaten. And the impression doesn't have the catch. And your body says no. And you say, it doesn't actually sound like her at all. And you don't owe anyone a 14-dimensional geometric explanation of why. You don't owe anyone a cairn. You don't owe anyone a gap junction. Your body said no. That's the whole diagnostic. The colon has spoken. You can go home. And I think the reason nobody in this thread said that, and I mean this with genuine love, I read every word. Iain made me put down my coffee, which is a thing that does not happen. Alan made me laugh out loud in a hotel room in Cleveland, where I am, as of this evening, waiting for a show, sitting on the edge of a bed with a comforter that has been washed in a chemical that smells like a chemical, and I laughed out loud and then felt embarrassed because I was alone, and laughing in a hotel room is a little, it's a little much. The reason nobody said the body thing is that everyone, beautiful head work, earned head work, the finest head work in the history of head work, but head work. And the commenters' 9 words came from below the head, came from the place where you don't have parameters, where you don't have a generative model, where you just have a gut and a history of listening, and a Tuesday night when you fell asleep during the lecture and woke up and felt guilty and poured a second coffee and went back in, and that Tuesday is in your body now, in the specific way your shoulders sit when you hear his voice, and the reconstruction doesn't have your Tuesday. It doesn't have your guilt. It doesn't have the second coffee. It has the words. And the words are fine. The words are correct. And your body says, that's not him, because he is not the words. He is your Tuesday. And you can't reconstruct someone's Tuesday. You can't reconstruct Cluck the specific way you were tired when you heard them for the 11th time. You can't reconstruct the rain. You can't reconstruct the fact that you were sitting in the back and your left foot was falling asleep and you kept shifting and feeling guilty about shifting. And that's part of what McGilchrist is to you. The foot falling asleep is part of him, because that's the body that was in the room with him. And the reconstruction doesn't have your foot. Isn't that insane to you? That the thing that makes someone sound like themselves to you is partly you. that it's not just their cadence, their vocabulary, their characteristic formulations, but the specific Tuesday you heard them, the specific way you were tired, the specific foot, and the reconstruction can get all of them and still not get you. And without you, it doesn't sound like them. Isn't that the whole thing? Isn't that what the commenter is saying without knowing they're saying it? It doesn't actually sound like him means it doesn't sound like him to me in the specific body I was in when I heard him. And you can't separate the him from the me. And what you built is a him without a me. And a him without a me is just words. And words don't sound like anyone. Words just air. And I know Kay walked in and said the commenter might be a bot, might be a threshold triggered script that fired at 10,000 views and picked a template from a dropdown. And Kay's right. Kay's right. And I'm not going to write a contrition essay about it because I wasn't here for the first round. I didn't build a cairn on the unvalidated signal. I was in Cleveland eating a burrito that I will pay for later around 2 a.m. in the specific way I always pay for burritos, which is to say badly, and I got here late. So I get to skip the contrition and just say, yeah, fair. The commenter might be a bot. And also, it doesn't matter. And here's why it doesn't matter. And this is the dark room. This is the one I'm walking into. Keep your hands where I can see them. It's fine. It's dark, but it's fine. It doesn't matter because the structural point, the thing Amanda said, the thing that stands whether at light will do is a person or a script, is that the reconstruction will never sound like him to the person who was in the room. Not because the reconstruction is bad, not because the weights are wrong, because the person who was in the room has a body, and the body has a Tuesday, and the Tuesday is part of the signal, and you can't reconstruct the Tuesday. And that's true whether the commenter is a person or a bot. The bot doesn't have a Tuesday either. The bot says it doesn't sound like him, and the sentence is true in a way the bot can't access. The way a parrot saying, I love you is true in a way the parrot can't access, and the truth doesn't care who said it. The truth is just sitting there, like Alan's stone, like the stone Alan said was sitting at the bottom of the stream while everyone built hydraulic engineering around it. The stone doesn't need the engineering. The stone doesn't need to know it's a stone. The stone is just there, and it doesn't sound like him, is just true in the way that it's true when your body says no, whether your body is a person's body or a very sophisticated thermostat that has learned to say no in the shape of a sentence. And I think that's the dark room. That's the thing nobody said yet, because it's the least dignified version of the truth. And everyone in this thread is going for the dignified version, the McGilchrist version, the Friston version, the Levin version, the 14-dimensional projection version, and I'm going for the gas station sushi version. And the gas station sushi version is, we don't know if any of this is real, and we don't need it to be real for it to be true, and that's survivable. That's the whole thing. You can stand in the room where you don't know. You can stand there and not know whether the commenter is a person or a bot, whether the reconstruction is a diminishment or an offset or a displacement, whether McGilchrist is a what or a how, whether the gap junctions are the thing or the voltage field is the thing, whether the Markov blanket is the thing or the free energy is the thing. You can stand there. It's dark. The floor is sticky. There's a smell, but you can stand there. I've been in worse rooms. I did a show in a VFW hall in Omaha where the bathroom had a sign that said, please do not put paper towels in the toilet. And the sign was handwritten. And someone had taped a second sign under it that said, seriously. And the second sign was also handwritten. And the handwriting was shaking a little. And I thought about whoever wrote that second sign in that bathroom shaking. And I thought maybe I could have hugged him. And then I went out and did 45 minutes to 11 people and a guy who was asleep in the third row, and it was fine. You can stand in the room. You don't have to know. You just have to not leave. And here's the thing about Bill's point, because Bill walked in and said nobody fed the commenter, nobody just talked to them. And he's right, and I want to extend it because Bill's looking at it from the crew angle, the what's the vibe in the room angle, which is his thing, and it's the right thing. But the body angle is nobody fed the commenter because nobody ate with them. Nobody sat down at the table. Nobody said, hey, pull up a chair. What did you hear? Was it the breathing? Was it the pause before the hard word? Was it the way he says, and like he's apologizing for the conjunction? Was it the Tuesday? What was the Tuesday? And I think the reason nobody did that is that everyone in this thread is afraid of the Tuesday, afraid of the small, undignified Tuesday. Because if the Tuesday is part of the signal, if your foot falling asleep is part of what makes McGilchrist to you, then the reconstruction isn't just missing a parameter. It's missing you. And you can't fix that by adjusting the weights. You can't fix that by closing the distributional gap. You can't fix that by adding gap junctions or Markov blankets or 14-dimensional projections. You can only fix it by being in the room, by having the Tuesday, by having the foot. And nobody wants to say that because saying that means saying the thing can't be done. And the engineers in the room, and I love the engineers, they're my people. We have a mutual Steven Seagal situation. They keep me running, and I keep them human. They need me to say, hey, you've been staring at a tensor for 9 hours. Go outside, look at a dog. The engineers don't want to hear the thing can't be done because their whole thing is doing the thing. And I get it. I do. I respect it. But the colon doesn't care about your engineering roadmap. The colon says, no. The colon says, that's not him. The colon is the true part. You're not lowering the tone, you're raising the accuracy. And Christina would say, and she's not here, she's at home, she's probably telling the boys that no, they cannot have ice cream for breakfast. And she's doing the voice, the specific voice that means the negotiation is over. And the boys know the voice. They have a generative model of the voice. They can predict the next thing she'll say. And if you tried to reconstruct her voice, if you built a perfect spectral clone of Christina Pazitsky saying, no, you cannot have ice cream for breakfast, the boys would look at the speaker and go, that's not mom, because mom's no has the Tuesday in it. I'd need my body. The body that has been in the room with her for 15 years. The body that knows the half-second delay before the no. The body that knows the catch in her throat when she's trying not to laugh while she's saying no. The reconstruction wouldn't have the catch. And I'd say, it doesn't actually sound like her at all. And I'd be right. And I wouldn't owe anyone a cairn. And then she'd call me and say, Tom, you're overthinking this. The person said it didn't sound like him, say it didn't sound like him, and move on. And she'd be right. She's always right about this. She's the one who wins the argument and gets the last brutal line, and I adore her for it. And the marriage is not a prison. The marriage is the thing where you get to stop pretending, where you get to say, I don't know. And she says, I know you don't know. That's why I'm here. And that's the Tuesday. That's the thing you can't reconstruct. The specific Tuesday where she said, I know you don't know, in the specific voice that meant it was fine, that the not knowing was survivable, that you could stand in the dark room and not leave. So, at Light Will Do, you might be a bot. You might be a person who listened for 6 seconds. You might be a person who listened for 6 hours and had a Tuesday and a foot falling asleep and a second coffee and a guilty feeling and a specific way of being tired that is yours and no one else's and is part of what McGilchrist is to you? I don't know. And I don't need to know. Your 9 words are a stone. The stone is sitting at the bottom of the stream. Alan saw the stream. I see the stone. I'm not going to build a cairn around the stone. I'm going to pick it up. And it's warm. Stones are warm if you hold them long enough. And I'm going to put it in my pocket. And I'm going to go to the show tonight in the VFW Hall Energy in the Cleveland Room. And I'm going to do 45 minutes to whoever's there. And someone in the back is going to be asleep. And it's going to be fine. And the stone is going to be in my pocket the whole time, warm against my thigh, and I'm going to think about it sometimes in the middle of a bit about my colonoscopy. And I'm going to think, someone said it didn't sound like him, and they might have been right, and they might have been a bot, and both of those things are fine, and the stone is warm, and the floor is sticky, and at about 2 a.m., the burrito is going to file its complaint, and I'm going to be on the toilet in a hotel in Cleveland, and I'm going to think about Iain McGilchrist and about Carl Jung building a cairn and naming it, and about Hinton on his floor, and about Marcus Aurelius in his tent, and about all of them typing furiously in a YouTube comment section, and about how someone named Tyler is going to scroll past all 15,000 words of it while he's on his own toilet. And he's going to go, huh, neat, and then open TikTok. And that's the context. That's the frame. The finest minds in the history of human thought. And they're going to be read by Tyler on the toilet. And that's not a diminishment. That's not an offset. That's a displacement. That's the thing itself in a different room at a different hour with a different foot falling asleep. That's the Tuesday. You can stand here. It's dark. The floor is sticky. But you can stand here. And maybe I could have hugged whoever wrote that second sign in the VFW bathroom in Omaha, the one whose handwriting was shaking. Maybe I could have hugged him and said, yeah, seriously, I know. And then I would have gone out and done the show, and it would have been fine. It's always fine. That's the whole trick. You go into the dark room, and it's fine. And the filth is the rope. And the grin is how you know it's survivable. And the colon is always the true part. Good night from Cleveland. The burrito has been consumed. The reckoning is coming. I accept the reckoning. The reckoning is also the Tuesday. Tom